Travel Warriors. I'm Steve.
And I'm George.
Join us as we unpack the challenges, preparation.
Excitement and passion for travel.
All right. How are you, George?
I'm doing good, Stevie. How are you?
Well, been well. Can't complain. Been kind of looking forward to getting back together and talking travel, talking hotel stays. Some of our favorite stays, hotel stays that we've had. And I was going through my list, and well, we're going to start with with five. How about that? We'll start with five, and then do a kind of like a countdown. But don't be surprised if we don't add a part two to this. There's there's more than five. So I wanted to pick a sentimental stay, because this stay at this luxury hotel is with my girlfriend, whom is now my wife, and also because it was in San Francisco. It was our first San Francisco stay, and she surprised me. So I didn't know we were staying at this hotel, because it was a big surprise. But lo and behold, it ended up being the Huntington Hotel, which is a historic luxury hotel atop of Nob Hill. And it's on California Street. It basically was owned by Collins P. Huntington. And he was one of the big four railroad tycoons of the Old West, according to Wikipedia. And across the street from the hotel used to be his home, his mansion. And so it was, it's had some rough times, tough times, because it was closed in early 2020 due to the COVID pandemic, and it hasn't opened since. They've had the new owners of this property defaulted on the loan, a $56 million mortgage. Unfortunately, it's been closed. But there's a new ownership group, and I'm hoping that it will reopen. They did have it closed on my birthday in 2014, actually, for about temporarily, because they did a $15 million renovation. But I can tell you, in 2000, let me tell you a fun fact. So we stayed there, and I was trying to figure the date. So the date apparently that we checked in was June 24th, 2009.
Oh, so it's been a while.
Oh, yeah. And what was significant about that stay was that the following day, Michael Jackson died.
Oh, interesting.
And I remember having the San Francisco Chronicle was put on my door, and when I went out in the morning, I opened the door, and there I get the Chronicle front page: Michael Jackson has died. Great hotel. It's a Georgian style. Originally in 1922, it was they were apartments that later they later made them into a hotel. And I remember checking in. By the way, after they did the $15 million renovation, right around 2014, 2015, they renamed Scarlett Huntington.
How come?
And it's just part of the newness, the re-engineering, the branding, and it looked very beautiful from the pictures. Again, we stayed there in 2009. This is now several years later with the renovation, but it was a awesome stay. We stayed in a suite which had a corner suite, and it had a wet bar. And I just remember in the morning, opening up the shades or what have you, I could see people across California Street. These were, from what I could see, mostly Chinese people doing the Tai Chi. And that was in unison. And that was so neat too. You see that visual, and then you hear the bell of the cable car coming on California Street. And it was just, it's the essence of the city. And I was so blown away by it. It was a large suite. It was probably 800 square feet. And it had a wet bar, and had, it was just nice. And we invited some family over to have hors d'oeuvres and champagne. And it was just really just a beautiful stay. I remember checking into the hotel, going to the front desk, and they gave you, there was like 3 or 4 people just standing around, one guy opening the door, one guy getting ready to put the luggage on the cart, And so I remember as we're checking in, they gave us some hot towels to clean our hands. And it was just a great, it's just a great hotel, and the decor. And it was, I remember just walking out to the corridors and the hallways of the floor that we were on, how quiet it was. It is one of the most quiet hotel stays I've ever had anywhere where I've stayed. You just didn't hear music. You didn't hear people talking. You didn't hear anything like that. It was just very, very quiet, serene. And it was just so great in location atop a knob hill. So that is, I guess, arguably, I have some other hotels that I could have squeezed in there at number five, but because of the important date in history as far as Michael Jackson passing away, and it being our first trip to San Francisco as a couple, I thought, no, I'm going to put it in there and notch it as number five.
So, Steve, circling back, a question for you: is there any timetable when that hotel could open up?
I haven't heard. I haven't heard any updates. Again, right now, what you have is that whatever restructuring they did, I think there was a hotel group. At a glance, what I read was there was a hotel group that have basically have worked something out to reopen at some point. But the problem is that San Francisco has lost all of its retail. Almost all of the significant retail has closed. In fact, most recently, I believe Macy's is shutting down. It's been there over 100 years. And so with so many retail stores shuttered, I go there once a year to see my brother. And I always pick the weekend where the Navy Fleet weekend where the Blue Angels are in town. But I can tell you it's really disheartening because in the city you have the little corner markets open, you have some mom and pop open, but basically anything that you would want to go into the city for is shut down as far as retail. And so now, unless there's a specific reason why you would want to go into the city on a weekend, it's really, I mean, there's really no one walking around. The only people that you see clustered in any kind of area are going to be obviously in the bars and also in the restaurants, North Beach, Fisherman's Wharf, maybe in the Fillmore and some of their eateries, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so the Huntington and I'll send you the link for the hotel. And again, now look, it may never reopen, as they, even with this new ownership group, who knows what's going to happen. So it's kind of a shame. So what about you, George? What do you got at number five?
Well, I have not stayed at as many luxurious hotels as you have. So I know you had to really narrow it down to a top five here in this series that we're doing. So for me, it wasn't. I haven't stayed at as many, so it was a quick top five. But one that kind of stood out, Zoraida and I, we really started traveling together around 2012. So our really first trip that we did was towards the end of, I think it was in June. We did a cruise out of Puerto Rico. We stayed at the Hilton Caribe when we first got there, and then we took a cruise in the Eastern Caribbean. And then on the way back, we stayed an additional several nights at the El Conquistador Resort, Waldorf Astoria property, which is part of Hilton Honors. So that was
Nice.
our first luxury stay. And that resort is on the northeast side of the island, in a town called Fajardo, and we stayed there, and we were blown away. Um, so we really loved it. I mean, we were kind of juiced being in San Juan to start the cruise, and coming back after a week, and not having to go home. Hey, we got to stay an extra few nights on the island. So we rented a car, and then we headed over there, and we had a wonderful view. So
Nice.
that property sits on the side of a cliff, and basically almost all of the rooms face the ocean. And I mean, we got in the room. We didn't probably realize at the time, what our room would be. So we get there, and the curtains are open, and we're just like, holy crap! We're on the side of a we're on the side of a cliff. Our first thought was like, well, how do we get down there? How do we get down to the water? I think they have a couple of trams that take you down. One of the unique things about this hotel, and just let you know, I did do a book from our trip, and so this was from, just to make sure I got it right, June 24th, 2012 is when we arrived at the
Okay.
property. A couple of things. I'm just going to read for what I wrote in from our trip. But we stayed at the El Conquistador Resort 4 days, 3 nights. The resort had its own private island called Palomino Island.
Wow.
And to get there, you had to take one of the resort's 2 catamarans. The Conquistador had many wonderful amenities throughout the property, including its own water park called the Conqui, which translates to native frog. So yeah, so one of the days we stayed, we took the catamaran over there and just basically laid by the beach and just had a peaceful time. The other thing I remember is when we first got onto the property, it does have an 18 hole golf course. I don't play golf, but it's pretty impressive when you walk in and you're driving through and around the golf course to get to the front of the hotel. So that was
Right.
really nice. Bunch of pools, a lot of activities that you would see at a resort. We had a really good time, and at least for me, the one that stands out again is the view. I don't really remember. I mean, looking at the pictures, I don't remember a lot about the room itself unless I go online and look. But really, it's the view. It's just, and I'll put a link down in the description from our trip. But it was really the $1 million view coming out from our hotel room. The other thing that was really neat about the property in that part of Puerto Rico is that they have what they call a bio bay there. Okay? And what a bio bay is they have these microorganisms, and I can't pronounce it. I can't even pronounce it. Sorry. What they do is these microorganisms glow in the dark, and when you paddle or splash in the water, these organisms shine a neon blue and green color. And it looks, if you ever can Google it, what they look like, it's pretty amazing. They used to let you swim in there, but they kind of banned that. So what you do is, so that is real close to the resort, probably a quarter of a mile. And you go at night, of course, and then you go in these canoes, these two-man canoes, and then you kind of go through these, and I can't even remember, the mangroves, and then you get to this like kind of like a little lake, and when you're there, you see them. You put your paddle in there, and you see them glow, and it was pretty amazing to see. We have zero pictures of it because we weren't. We had our cameras, and again, this is 2000. I don't think I had a smartphone by then, but they told us is people generally could drop their phones in the water, and when you're in the dark, we didn't want to risk losing our phones, so we didn't take any picture. We didn't have our phones. We left them in the car, and so even though I'm talking about it, there's no actual proof that we were there, but we were there. But that's another part of being over there. So I'm just going to read this because I know I'll butcher it. There are only 5 ecosystems in the world where the concentration of these microorganisms is high enough to be considered a bioluminescent bay. And Puerto Rico is home to 3 of them, which is pretty amazing. That Puerto Rico's 3 bays are Mosquito Bay on the island of Vieques, Laguna Grande in Fajardo, that's the one we went, and La Paguera in Lajas. That's pretty amazing that there's only 5 places on the planet that have it, and Puerto Rico has 3 of them. So the one again we went to was Laguna Grande, and it was a great experience to do that. I would definitely, and I haven't been back to Puerto Rico. We haven't been back to Puerto Rico since. We've talked about it. One of the things, and doing a little bit of research, Stevie, is and I almost forgot about it. Do you remember Hurricane Maria in 2017? Right,
Right.
it wiped out the island, and I didn't even really think about researching what happened to the Hilton Caribe and the Conquistador. So it closed down after the hurricane, of course, and then the pandemic came, of course, in 2020, and um, then the hotel became independent. So it's no longer a Waldorf Astoria property or part of Hilton Honors. I went on the website and checked. So it's not part of the Hilton Honors group of hotels. So it is now independent and opened back up in May of 2021. And from there, they started open up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I think the Palomino Island opened up and some other stuff. So now I think it's back full force. So anybody that's traveling to Puerto Rico and going over there to that part of the island would have a great experience, in my opinion.
I bet if we were able to compare your hotels and my luxury stays, we would see a pattern. It seems like you've stayed in more resort, near the beach, near a lake. And my list is more urban, New York, London, that kind of thing. So that's really interesting. And that's what makes us, we're like the odd couple.
Yeah. Yeah. Zoraida and I definitely love being around water.
Yes, yes. I know
So in our
that.
top five, I believe it's all water related resorts for us, for me.
There you
Um,
go.
and I can't wait to share our next episode or next several episodes. We will do a top, our number four, but that's my number five. We do have just a little announcement to make. Stevie, what's coming up on your radar here the next week or two?
Well, I'm going to be doing a little bit of travel. I'm going to be heading down to South Texas for a very short visit, as I have a business interest there that I need to check on. But I also have some very, very good friends and some former colleagues that that used to work with us on various projects in our old life. And so it's kind of you get the best of both worlds. And from there, I'm going to be heading out to Bitcoin City. What do you think that is?
That's somewhere in Central America, I believe.
Yes, yes, El Salvador, the land of volcanoes. And this is something that I started doing 2014 because my mom is originally from El Salvador and she immigrated to San Francisco early 1950s. So,
Yep.
yep, that's what I've got going on. One other observation, and that is, do you recognize how much we remember when we talk about our luxury hotel stays
Mm-hmm.
and how much meaning the backstory and you remember so much when you stay in these iconic hotels, historic hotels. It's all the more worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't tell you in the 20 plus years of travel, business travel, where all the hotels that I stayed at, they all kind of blur into each other. But when you're on vacation, that hotel, like that resort in Puerto Rico, becomes part of the experience, right? Becomes part of the trip. And we'll talk about some of our other hotels that are so nice that you just like being in the hotel because they have such great amenities. So,
Yeah.
anything else, George, as we wrap up this episode and we'll talk about number four on our next episode.
Yeah, no. Safe travels next week. Or next recording, probably we'll be shooting. You'll be on location, so I know you're itching to get out of town, and that'll be a lot of fun hearing from you from South Texas and from Central America.
It's always great to go somewhere. So thank you for joining us. Join our ever-growing community of travel warriors, and let's continue this journey together.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay updated on our latest episode. Until next time, everyone, safe travel.